sense that because of things I get up to, there's a lot of...
The Weston Spirit Charity was set up by Simon Weston, partly to give him a focus to his life. You might have thought that suffering horrific burns in the Falklands would have taught him a lesson. Avoid danger at all costs. But the former Welsh Guard from the small Welsh village of Nelson has other ideas. Last year he chose to make his debut as a motor racing driver, with one of the aims being to raise money for the Western Spirit. And this is the story of that day. Achievement through cooperation, that's just what we've had there.
Did Simon tell you he wants to borrow your road car to do practice?
It may have been a challenge for Simon, but for his racing team, there was a sense of achievement in having brought him so far. If the truth be known, we were probably more nervous than he was about the race. The motor racing, like so many things in Simon's life, has become one of a long list of personal challenges. There is something that drives the man to achieve new and more ambitious targets. For Peter Arkle, the task was to make sure that the engine and car were to be reliable. The thought of Simon not finishing as a result of mechanical breakdown was something that haunted us all.
It's too tight, his shoulders up and down.
You know you've got another engine in case he blows it tomorrow in practice?
Yeah, someone's bringing it down tomorrow.
Yeah, but that's going to be a hell of a job trying to do that outside, surely.
You haven't seen me work.
I was going to say, that's when his skill comes in.
Did Simon tell you he was getting nervous? I said, don't worry about it. I'll teach him to ride my bike.
He's most,
Can I learn to ride?
Yeah, certainly.
he's most concerned about the difference in time between, as I say, 10 o'clock when he finishes.
That's right. We want to keep him busy, but he's got to be relaxed ready for the race. That's what he can't be. We just don't want him too wound up and too exhausted.
Just give him plenty to do and he'll be okay.
What was the tension like for your first race?
It was okay, but then I didn't have that much pressure on, really. I mean, when you've got cameras in the car and everything, he's bound to get nervous.
But funnily enough, he says that's not what he's concerned about. He's concerned about
living up to expectations.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was Steve Monk's car that we were using for the race. He rather fancied having it returned to him in one piece at the end of the afternoon.
He's starting to wind up like a clock.
Yes,
Yeah, he said he was getting nervous. I said, don't worry about it.
Here's the great man. Simon arrived at the circuit on Saturday afternoon for his first look at the car. With him was one of his tutors for the race, Jerry Marney. Hi there. How are you? You okay?
Yep, no problem.
Fit and healthy?
As fit as you can, Liz.
Got anything we've got to put now? Got to do the discs this afternoon, fit them on, put the new discs.
Yeah.
And Steve's got the pads and everything else. That's literally all we've got to do. Apart from getting you signed on tomorrow morning now.
Yep. Good. So, well, there we go.
The big day tomorrow.
The big day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you got any nerves about it at all yet?
I'm terrified. No, I got a lot of nerves. I'm not so much scared, it's nervous apprehension, I think. It's because it's an unknown quantity racing. Because it's going into a pack, you know, it's going in with other traffic. I've never done it before. So.
Well, the problem he's going to have is nerves, and he's suffering from that a bit at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, just
But there's no real remedy to that. I mean, really, we just got to try and keep him busy tomorrow, so he's it doesn't sort of build up on him. But we'll sit on him; he'll be all right.
It's inevitable, I suppose, getting nervous. Because it's the first, isn't it? The first of many, I hope.
You know that problem we had on Monday?
Yeah.
Where the brake pedal was riding up and down? Well, we're putting these on. That should take that problem away completely. But they'll put these on with new pads, and in fact for the first lap or two you'll need to go reasonably steady to bed these in, because if you get too much heat into them too quickly you'll end up warping them again and end up with the same problem.
Overnight, we tried to relax him. We were up at 6:30 to be at the track for the 9 a.m. qualifying session.
Right, okay. You know about, I told you about the boost control, didn't I?
Yeah, just keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
the fourth lap.
it's set to 0 now.
Right. And you want it on to...
If it goes above 12.8, come back in and we'll reset it.
Okay.
And the scrutineer will just stick his key in it, because he has to set it from there with a key.
Or do I just go straight into the... Where do I go?
Yeah, just come in and see us.
Where?
In the pits. Just come in and run us over.
Steve's concern over the boost gauge was to prove well-founded, as events were later to prove. Pete pushed the car out of the paddock, with Simon's many sponsors hoping for a good showing. The tension wasn't just affecting Simon. For the competitors, the media attention was also falling on them. With Simon being a novice at the sport and thrust into a very competitive level of motorsport, the other drivers had to contend with Simon's inexperience on the track, as much as he had to cope with their speed. Belted into the car, the final preparation was to be the triple-layer fireproof suit, provided to him by Advanced Wear and Safety. This would give him a minimum of 30 seconds protection in the event of a crash and a fire. The moment of truth had arrived. Would Simon be able to cut it? Would the pressure be too much? The answers weren't far around the corner.
It was nerve-wracking until I got into the car. Then I just had to go in and actually qualify. It was a lot different because there was a lot of fast cars out, a lot of fast drivers, and they were going around quite quickly. They were all sort of overtaking me.
Simon had 15 minutes in which to qualify. The regulations state that 3 laps must be completed, with the best lap time giving him his grid position. With around 5 minutes left of the session, Simon was nowhere to be seen. He had spun off. He limped back to the pits with a blown tyre. But the gods must have been smiling on him. The gauges showed that the engine had indeed been overboosting. The instruction I gave as team manager was simple.
Go out, just get 3 laps in steady so you're qualified, then go for it after you've done your 3 full laps.
While Steve finished the tyre change, Pete worked on the turbo. We needed those 3 laps and the turbo pressure to register 12.8 or below, or we, quite literally, had blown everything.
It's been very important getting other people to show me what to do and where I'm going wrong. Teamwork was important this morning, you know, to keep the car on the track so I could actually qualify. I suppose it's like any sport, you know, if you're involved in anything as a team that puts it all on.
I made that 38.5, but I'm not so sure.
That, wasn't he?
Sorry?
Have you ever move with that?
Yeah, it's quicker than he was the other day.
Probably got about another 5 minutes, probably about another 3 laps.
Oh please, Simon, please.
His times were okay, but what would the gauge show when he came back to the pits? The nerve ends were tingling. His times were really quite good.
39.
The best that he'd ever done. On that basis he wouldn't come last, but nor would he come first. The key was still that turbo boost gauge.
You're in. You're in.
The relief was enormous. The gauge showed 12.6. We were going to make the start. Now it was over to Jerry Marney to give the final race briefing.
You're in the middle of the road here, that's for the line.
Yeah.
But instead of braking and being on the left of the track, I want you on the right of the track. Okay, so if anyone tries to do any heroics, they'll have to go around the outside of you. Okay, whereas if you're over here on the racing line, which is what we wanted to see for qualifying, you'll get a dozen cars up the inside of you, you see?
Yeah.
Give yourself plenty of time to settle down. Just let them tear off and do what they have to do on the start. Most of the grief happens on the first lap or first half lap. So just settle yourself in, and those slower cars that are in front of you, you'll find that you'll go past them anyway.
Okay.
Okay? So if you remember those things, and go out, have a good race, and I'll see you afterwards.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Jack.
Okay.
Now for the race. He was on his own. Nobody could tell him anything else. The hours of practice were behind him. This was the real thing. The adrenaline must have been pumping as the lights turned to green.
We're a bit apprehensive about the weather at the moment because it looks like it's going to be wet and dry, which is showers, which are really the worst conditions we can have round here. It's better to have the it cold like it is now, because the turbo engines actually perform better on a cold day. But I mean, for Simon's first race, what we don't want is we don't want showery conditions, because here half the track dries out and half of it will still be damp, and that will give him more problems than he needs.
The showers weren't to be the problem. What did happen out of shot of the cameras was that two of the VW Golfs came together for a big accident that saw one of the drivers going off to hospital. Simon managed to keep clear of the debris, but with bits of car strewn across the track, there was only one choice for the marshals. The race had to be stopped. For Simon, the first start had been good. He hadn't got involved in any door banging and had got through the first lap safely.
He survived.
No idea. Obviously there's been an incident, I would think, coming into the chicane or something.
The fact that the race was stopped was cruel luck.
The accident was involving the guy behind you, Simon. You've gone into one of the guys in front.
The guy who tore off in front
Yeah.
of me?
The guy who came up from behind you, yeah, directly behind you. Yeah, the guy's directly behind you.
God, my adrenaline was pumping so much then.
That's it.
Whether I can get it back up again.
Yeah, go on, you go for it.
Having psyched himself up for the race, he now had to sit and wait while the track was cleared.
Was the start better than you thought it should have been?
I think it was after practicing in your car yesterday.
Yeah, didn't tell me about that, did you? That's right.
No.
We can fit clutches quite quick, you know, in those.
It's the fact that I've got to try and flog it later on. It's never raised or rallied.
Are they too? And is there a badge on the back?
Nobody seems to know. All they know is there's two Golfs.
Are they taking them off?
Yeah, they'll drag them out of the way, I would imagine.
Yeah, they're obviously across the track, I suppose.
I would think so.
How was it going out there anyway?
Did you go there?
Yeah, it was good. I was going round sort of steady, and as I come round the back then, a lot of them slowed down because of the shunt, and I just sort of, once I'd gone past the accident, I just sort of started accelerating. And then came a green flag, and I thought, well, everything's back to normal. And then all of a sudden there was black flags everywhere, so I just slowed right down and stopped.
That's a boost.
And I didn't really get a go in the first lap because I waited for the tyres to warm. I'm not going to be stupid like that.
After 10 minutes of waiting, the restart was on. He had to build the aggression and the temperament for the race all over again. It was another clean getaway. From the pit wall we could see none of the action until they came past at the end of the lap. We had to rely on the voices from the PA system informing us of any further incidents. But was Simon really serious about the racing? Wasn't he in danger of being regarded as yet another personality playing at motor racing?
I wouldn't have gone round with people like Jerry Marney and Steve Cole and all the rest of them in different tracks if it was a half-hearted attempt. Because I want to learn as much as I possibly can. The only way I can learn about racing is to actually race. But there's a certain amount that you need to learn, or I felt I needed to learn, off the circuit. And those are the only people who could actually show me what to do, are people who've raced. And I needed that before I could get the confidence up, or even be able to get any sort of times where I'd be able to sort of actually race.
As he came towards the end of the first lap, it was obvious that he was going to be able to hold his own in part. Sure, there were some drivers on the track who have been racing for 10, 20 or even 30 years. In his first race, he couldn't expect to win. Holding it all together and staying on the track would be an achievement, bearing in mind the pressure from the national and international media. The best story for them would have been if he had crashed, but Simon had other ideas.
It all
things considering, and the fact that this is Simon's very first time on the track, I think he's actually very well prepared. He's obviously suffering a little bit from nerves, which is only to be expected, and anyone who's having their first race will obviously suffer from nerves. He's very much in the public eye, so he's obviously perhaps suffering more than anyone else with that particular problem.
The people who know anything about motor racing are not expecting a great deal from me. In fact, probably a lot of them will probably think I'm a crank, instead of just somebody else who's been in the public eye having a go, you know, and probably will fail again, just like there's the other people who've had a go, pop stars and sports stars and that, have had a go and failed. So I should imagine there's quite a few people probably thinking that way.
There were also several thousand people at the track willing him on. The difference with Simon Weston, compared to the many pop stars and personalities that he is referred to, is that Simon has this will to win. Coming second is something that's not in his vocabulary. At the end of the first lap, Simon knew that he was in a race. He was having to fight to hold his line as other drivers tried to get past. But he wasn't making it easy for them.
Not too bad, he's bringing it down.
I think in terms of how ready is he in terms of going on the track, I think he's very well prepared. He's done extremely well in the short training that he's had. I'm very pleased with his progress. He's about 3/4 of the way down the field, which is a marvellous achievement on itself. You know, bearing in mind there's an awful lot of experienced people out there.
Those experienced people weren't giving any quarter. Simon was gaining places on merit. Those were his skills and his determination. But the media attention must have been getting to him during the day. His courage and endeavours have given inspiration to millions. Throughout his life he has set himself one challenge after the other. Last year he enjoyed, if that's the right word, the exhilaration of wing walking. Here he was now risking all in a 130-mile-an-hour racing car. His first day in a racing car is also a day that will stand out in the memory. He crashed at nearly 100 miles per hour at Alton Park in Cheshire. The car was written off, but thanks to the quick thinking of the instructor, the marshals at the circuit, and the strength and resilience of a modern racing car, Simon walked away from the wreckage unscathed. Watching him from the pit lane for his race debut was former Formula One champion Jackie Stewart.
He doesn't want to be seen as another personality in racing. He doesn't want to fail at it. He's suffering today from just the pressure of everybody wanting to know him, say hello.
That's the problem. That's difficult to shake off. But on the other hand, if he wasn't who he is, nobody would be interested.
Nobody would be sponsoring him, supporting him in that way.
Yeah,
and he'd be struggling along with a private entry.
That's right.
Your first race, do you remember your race?
Yeah, but my first race was easy because nobody cared. I had no pressure. I mean, apart from my pressure, but it was totally different. I was just starting off. I was very young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
I really think it's an achievement to even finish the race. Come on, boy!
Simon had the pressure and everybody cared. The newsmen and cameramen wanted their story, but Simon wasn't keen to write the copy according to their plan.
I think some of the problems Simon will have today is his particular lack of experience in what we call track craft, that is cars diving up the inside of him when he's not expecting it, and general sort of experience that can only be obtained by spending time racing. That's not something you can teach somebody. All we can do when we're teaching him is how to use the circuit properly, the correct lines. But of course, that's fine when he's the only car out there, but he's going to be out there with 40 other cars. And the cars are going to be hitting him from all angles. And when I say hitting, hopefully I don't mean literally, but diving up one side, diving up the other side. And that, unfortunately, is an area that he's only going to be able to get experience in with actual race time on the circuit with other cars.
Simon's first wish was not to be lapped. His second was to finish. Well, 1 out of 2 wasn't bad. In the red number 5 Jan Speed car, Keith O'Dore was on his way to another good result.
If I complete and I get round and I finish the race, and if I can finish it better than I started, even by 1 place, it's got to be success, isn't it? Because you've gone better than you actually qualified. So.
After Simon's crash on his first ever test day, it would have been understandable if he'd slipped away from the circuit to lick his wounds, but not Simon. Within an hour, he was back behind the wheel of another racing car, pushing himself harder and extending his own horizons where speed and success were concerned. Simon isn't the sort of man who gives up. When he sets himself a target, he usually sees it through, despite all the odds stacked against him. The pressure on him was incredible. People forget that Simon Weston has never been prepared for the public's adulation and fame that the TV documentaries and his autobiography have brought him. He is genuinely reluctant to face the cameras and media attention. He's still learning to cope with it all.
I think that Simon, the time I've spent with him, the ability he's shown, he has a natural ability to drive. He's not wild, which is very important. He's smooth. He has progressed steadily through his training. He's got quicker and quicker without getting wilder and wilder. What he must obviously get now is on-track experience to learn the various skills you need with getting past other cars and indeed keeping cars behind you. I think that if he continues to gain in experience and confidence as he has done over the last 2-3 weeks, then I think he's got a very bright future in the sport. He's certainly very keen. It's something he's wanted to do since he was very young, and I think that if you've got that motivation, he's got the potential to go a long way. He's still got a lot to learn. I mean, no one's going to expect him to go out and win races and things like that immediately, but hopefully I'm very confident he's going to make a good account of himself today, and I'm sure we'll see if he decides to keep on in the sport, we'll see him moving further up the grid very, very quickly.
And continue he has. This year he's racing with great credit in the new SO Saloon Car Championship, with financial backing again from a number of companies, including the Evans Howshall Car Dealership Group, which sponsored him in his first race.
I found the vast majority of people in motorsport being very, very nice and very helpful. You know, they're very friendly people. It's not a horrible sport. You know, the people are not horrible in it. You know, you meet 1 or 2 that are not as nice as the others, but that goes with anything. You know, I mean, it's more the sort of the rule that people are generally quite nice. You know, rather than the exception to the rule.
This first race was something special for a great many people, including Simon. For us, perhaps best regarded as the enthusiastic amateurs who'd done the background work, it was a thrill to see Simon realise an ambition. He'd done remarkably well. With the leaders well out in front, it was to be the blue Sierra Cosworth of Tom Bell that crossed the line first, only just ahead of Mark Hales in the white Firestone Cosworth. Mark was later to be declared the winner after Tom Bell had apparently missed out the chicane earlier in the race. Coming home third was to be the red Sierra of Keith O'Dore, who went on to win the championship. For him, it was a pretty good season. For different reasons, it was a race and a season to remember for Simon. There were tears in my eyes as Simon came around the corner for the last time. He evoked such a terrific team spirit among everyone he meets. We were willing him on. The crowd was on its feet as he came to the chicane for the last time. David Shedd in the blue Sierra finally got the better of Simon at the line. It was, as Jerry Marney had already said, a question of racecraft which stopped Simon finishing 1 place better. But that didn't matter. It was the competing and finishing that mattered first time out. He hadn't disgraced himself. The people back home in Wales couldn't have been ashamed of their hero. There were many people, such as racing driver Mark Hales, John Thrupp at Firestone, Steve Cole at the Alton Park Racing School, and a few exceptional friends, such as Steve Monk and Pete Arkle, who made the whole thing possible.
Yes. Congratulations, well done. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
good.
Really good.
Good.
Really good.
The relief was obvious on his face. He'd made it home in one piece.
And I didn't bump it either.
I wasn't worried about it.
I was round the back, Had a nasty moment round there. It was good. Enjoyed it.
Does it feel like total relief now?
Yeah.
Quick beer or lager?
No, a cup of tea. Cup of tea. I got to drive to Birmingham after this. So I'll have a cup of tea.
Yeah, a cup of tea organised.
For Steve Monk, it meant that his car was back in one piece. For Pete and the rest of the crew, mental exhaustion describes the feeling. As for Simon,
I'm glad it's over. I'm glad it's over.